Hello everyone and welcome to Let's Play Switchball. On this episode we're going to eventually get to the ice world, but first we need to cover a hidden path that I missed in World 1-4. After this checkpoint, simply turn into the marble and go forward. You're going to need to turn into a steel ball and then go backwards because there's a hidden railing that you can access underneath these planks. And there you have it. There's also a transform under here. I apologize that you can't really see it too well. There's not much I can do about the camera at this point. And there you have it, the hidden path. Anyways, it's time to move on to the ice world. This is World 2-1. And World 2-1, the Ice World, is going to introduce us to a new ball, first of all, and that is the rubber ball. But first we need to transform into a steel ball to get these steel crates out of the way. And the rubber ball is very agile, very light, and unfortunately it can be easily pushed around by these propellers. And I like how the propellers, the force of the air is a lot stronger the closer you move into the propeller. So they got the physics right there. The air does disperse quite a bit. As a steel ball, you're not going to be pushed around by the propellers. So keep that in mind. It's too heavy. And there's an iron ball kind of bouncing on the elastic there. Or at least being pushed around by the air. But don't worry about that just yet. Well, I think that's probably just a rope. I don't know if that's elastic or not, but... Anyways, there's a hidden path here. And to get to the hidden path, you'll need to roll backwards to the checkpoint to get there, but I'm going to show that at the end of the level. Not necessarily at the end of the video. You'll also notice that the rubber ball bounces just a little bit. And another feature is that we have toggle switches here. So we can turn something on and turn it off. So we need to turn this propeller on to move the wooden crates out of the way. And turn it off so that we can roll past without a problem. And we're also introduced to a new obstacle, the cannon. The cannon's pretty straightforward. And basically you just kind of roll up in there and launch yourself. But first I'm just going to kind of show you the rest of this area. It's kind of a little boat. Anyway, what you do with the cannon is roll yourself into the cannon and launch yourself with the spacebar. If you want to exit the cannon for any reason, just press enter. And there you have it. That is level 2-1. Now the hidden path in this level is pretty easy to get to. Again, remember what I said about the checkpoint. Transforming into a rubber ball and rolling backwards. Now the rubber ball can be launched much higher than the marble ball can due to the air. And you'll see here's a section that we can access. And I rolled off there a little bit, so that's why it reset. Although I'm not 100% sure that was why it reset there, but it did anyway. Just wanted to point out it's kind of tricky to do this. But with trial and error, you'll get there eventually. I like how the ball bounces there. Kind of sounds like a little basketball. Or maybe like one of those balls that you find in the giant bins at Walmart, you know. This is fairly easy. Just launch yourself in the crates and you'll bounce off of them and you'll be able to end the level. And that takes care of World 2-1. 2-2 introduces us to a new obstacle, the magnet. Now, this magnet is on, and you can tell because there's particulates kind of moving in towards it. That's how they signal that the magnet is on. As a marble ball, you're not magnetic, so you don't really have to worry about being drawn into it. But if you're a steel ball, you will have to worry about that, and they introduce us to that shortly. We also have a toggle switch here. We can turn the magnet on and off. Some switches are toggle switches. Some switches need a constant weight on them to be on all the time. And we'll get to that eventually. Now here, there's actually an active magnet to the right, or ahead of us rather. And the problem with this is that as a steel ball, you'll get too close and you'll be sucked in by the magnet yourself. So they got the magnetic flux lines pretty accurate in that at a certain distance the magnetic force pretty much is negligible. We can pass through here without a problem as a marble ball. This section is a little bit of a weird puzzle. You can transform into a rubber ball and kind of blow yourself around with the fans, but I think it's kind of pointless. So what I like to do is, since the fans can still lift you as a marble ball, you can just kind of blow yourself around this railing. You'll see here. And there you go. Easy peasy. This next section is pretty straightforward, but in case you're not sure what to do, move these crates out of the way, and then you'll need to flip that switch, because what happens is that this is a magnet and it will actually pull those crates out of the way. And if the magnet is permanently on, you can roll past without a problem. Now this section is interesting. What you do here is you roll the crates into the propellers. And I like how the air slowly stops. They really got the physics. The physics are very well done in this game. And I guess it helped to have the PPU, the physics processing unit, because it did a lot of the linear algebra and tensor work in order to get some of this stuff working right. It's been years since I've done physics, but I remember something about tensors and matrices and linear algebra with some of the more complicated parts of physics, especially when you deal with things like turbulence and air friction and things like that, if I remember correctly. Anyways, 2-3 introduces us to the ropes again. And here we can't go through the ropes. Well, we'll go through the ropes as a glass marble, but here as a rubber ball will be fine. Now there's a couple ways to deal with this. I think one of the ways is this central object here kind of lifts balls upwards, you'll see here. Now I think the smaller ball can kind of lift the rope, kind of spread the rope out of the way. I'm not 100% sure on that, but the way I did it was I just lifted myself up and around. And there you have it. Now this next section is a little different. We have two different types of switches, a toggle switch and an always on switch, or a switch rather that needs some weight always on top of it. You can see here we need to have the crate on top of the switch in order for it to work. And we need both fans to give us enough of a propulsion to launch ourselves over this little bridge, and you'll see that in a moment. And we also need to reduce our weight in order to push ourselves forward. And you'll see what happens. And there you have it. Now here we have an interesting obstacle, interesting puzzle rather. The easy way to get around this is to roll forwards here with this fan, and be careful here because you will fall off like that. At any rate, go forward, roll off here, and you might want to press forward or left or whatever key you need to press to go forward a little bit more to give you a little bit more energy. Because if you don't, you will probably fall off like I did earlier. You could go right, but of course if you went right, you would be pushed off. Here, as the marble, you can kind of go through these fans with just a little bit of ease, but not too easily. And there you go. Now there is kind of a shortcut to get by those two propellers near the steel crates, but I wouldn't worry about it. Here we've got another cannon, so I need to launch a cannonball. And this does take a few tries. You notice on the lower left, it'll actually show you what to do. It'll actually indicate to press the space bar. So it does kind of baby you in terms of the controls. But the puzzles aren't that bad. I've looked ahead a little bit of the puzzles, and the puzzles are getting more complicated. Or at least I've watched a couple of puzzles. Maybe not played some of the later levels, but we'll get there eventually. And there you have it. Fortunately, the cannonball respawns. And I think it's kind of weird for there to be snow at this altitude, because there usually isn't that much moisture for dendrite growth to be that prevalent at this kind of an altitude, but whatever. We're playing the game for the physics engine, not for the weather engine. Besides, the snowflakes are just a little overlay anyway. Here we need to push a crate over here onto the little balance beam, the seesaw, if you want to call it that. And in case you didn't know, by the way, since it's winter, a little fact about snow. If you aren't sure what temperature it is outside, take a look at the form of the snowflake. Snowflakes actually form different ways at different temperatures. They can be needles, they can be flakes like this, they can even be columns, depending on the temperature. So, the more you know. Yes, I'm kind of a weather nerd. And it can be, of course, too dry for it to snow. There's no moisture in the air. Well, it's not going to snow very much, is it? Now here, we need something a little lighter to go across this seesaw. And what we do is transform into the rubber ball. And we need to push this crate over a little bit. I'd recommend pushing the crate as far as you can as the marble before you roll across here. And there you have it. And that ends World 2-3. On the next episode, we're going to take care of Worlds 2-4 through 2-6. And thank you so much for watching Let's Play Switchball. Have a wonderful day. Goodbye.